We now move to our next inaugural speech. I give the call to the Honourable Lorna Harper.
Thank you. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Congratulations, President and Deputy President, on your election. Congratulations also to my Labour comrades here and in the other place. It is truly an honour and a privilege to be here today as a representative of the East Metropolitan Region. It is an area of Perth that I have lived in since coming to Australia. I've lived in Bayswater, Bassendean, Maylands and now reside in Aveley. What a place to live. The Swan Valley, the hills, the culture and the people, an amazing eclectic group. As you may gather, I wasn't born here in Australia. I come from a small town with a big history called Largs. It's situated on the Ayrshire coast, overlooking the River Clyde, Dún na Water from Glasgow. In October 1263, the army of King Alexander III fought and defeated the Vikings at Largs. It was a battle that changed the history of Scotland and led to the signing of the Treaty of Perth in 1266. Largs was also the birthplace of Sir Thomas Brisbane, which the city of Brisbane is named after. It was at a school named after him that I had my first real act of collective action. Brisbane Primary was opened in the late 70s at the foot of the hills. It wasn't uncommon to see sheep wander into our playground. The school had this large red blaze pitch, which the boys played football on. The girls, well, we weren't allowed on it during our playtime or lunch. To me, this was unfair and unjust. We played football as well, but all we had was a small concrete area. So we went on strike. We got some of the boys to support us and refused to return to class until it was resolved. We won. To be honest, I didn't like playing on the pitch after all, but that wasn't the point. It is from my parents that my brother Graham and I got our sense of justice, fairness and community. My mum Liz was number 11 out of 12 children, the youngest girl. Her brothers fought in World War II. Her father was a steel worker. Her mother got a break once a year by travelling back to Ireland to spend time with relatives. My mum grew up babysitting many of her numerous nieces and nephews. My father's first job was a butcher boy at the tender age of 9. You see, my pop got injured somehow during the war and they needed the money. Both my parents come from proud working class backgrounds. My mum in particular encouraged us to ask questions, my father to call out injustice. We lived in an end terrace 2-up, 2-down house, which had a communal backyard. We shared this back garden with 14 other children. We had some wonderful adventures. I remember climbing up onto the roof of a hut with Tricia and jumping off shouting Geronimo. Our mothers didn't think it was a good idea as we did, since we were 4 at the time. As kids, we had the freedom to play and roam, in before the lights came on, being told off by whichever adult was nearest. It was such a sense of community. We really were being raised by a village. I have just vague memories of the general strikes in the 70s. I do recall one winter where we had regular electricity blackouts. We were okay, as we still cooked by gas and had a coal fire. Some of our neighbours weren't so fortunate. I remember nights when we were squashed into our living room to keep warm. Our parents didn't have much, but neither did the other families. We shared what we could. I don't feel I had a deprived childhood. My parents worked hard and went without to support us. They encouraged my brother and I to go on to further education. I was only 17 when I packed my bags and headed to Edinburgh to attend college. The idea that we know what we want to be at that age is now absurd to me. College life wasn't for me. I wanted to have fun, to explore, and to live life, not be stuck in a classroom. I first came to Australia in 1989. Perth looked very, very different back then. What a momentous year that was. Tiananmen Square, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and Thatcher's introduction of the poll tax in Scotland. I was an active member of the Scottish Labour Party back then. I door-knocked, letterboxed and stuffed many an envelope during my time. Of course, I was fundamentally opposed to this Tory tax. It was a tax that targeted the working class. It was meant to replace housing rates, but it wasn't based on how big your house was or what it was worth, but rather on how many people over the age of 18 lived there. It tripled what my parents had previously paid, and they still lived in a 2-up, 2-down end terrace. So, on a cool but dry day on the 1st of April 1989, I joined 45,000 other concerned Scottish citizens to peacefully march and voice our concerns on how unfair this tax was. From the top of Leith Walk to the Meadows in Edinburgh. Of course, Thatcher ignored this. The Conservative government ruling from London had already decimated the shipyards, steelworks, coal mines and car factories in Scotland. Again and again they had tried to bring the Scots to their knees. Again and again they have been unsuccessful. We are a feisty, belligerent and stoic race. As we say in Scotland, here's to us, wha's like us, gae few and the rodded. I spent 6 months here in 1989. That first summer was an experience. My mum and I would open the windows to let the breeze in and only use the aircon at night to cool the house. We learned fast. When I returned to Scotland, I lived in Glasgow, a city of contrasts, a city of culture, history and architecture, within a city of grit, determination and justice. My granny was born in the Gorbals. I lived in the West End. Physically, miles apart, but in reality, worlds apart. I travelled back and forward between Scotland and Australia over the next few years. I worked in a hotel in Largs for many years. The views from the hotel over the River Clyde to the islands of Cumbria and Arran, over the Kyles of Bute into the mountains beyond, are breathtaking. It was at this hotel where I met actors, celebrities, lords, ladies, dukes and travellers from across the world. I learned that people are just people, regardless of class, wealth or fame. I returned to studying whilst there. I studied full-time, travelled 2 hours a day back and forth to college and continued to work over 35 hours a week. It took its toll on me mentally and physically. My mum got me to come back out to Australia in 1996. It was then that I met my daughter's father. The relationship did not work out and I became a single parent. Jess is truly my daughter. She is intelligent, caring, loving and as fierce as hell. She also suffers from mental health issues. She has given me permission to speak about them. It is close to 10 years now since she was first diagnosed with anxiety and depression. Teenagers attempting suicide is most definitely not attention-seeking. It is the act of those who are in crisis, have lost hope and meaning. Jess was also diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Jess wants more people to be open about mental health and the struggles that she and others deal with every day. It is from experience that we know an emergency department is an awful place for someone in crisis to be. The noises, the lights, the suffering of others and the general chaotic atmosphere intensifies the feelings and the emotions. The McGowan Labour government has been working steadily on how to improve mental health services here in WA, but there's still a long, long way to go. It is really hard being a single parent, but I was luckier than most. I had the support of my mum and my stepfather Stan. They were the ones that encouraged me and helped me to go out and attend Swan TAFE in Midland to gain further qualifications. My stepfather is one of the reasons I stand here today. In April 2005, he was diagnosed with mesothelioma. He died in September 2005. Sounds quick? It wasn't. He endured months and months of terrible pain, spent the last 6 weeks or so of his life in Sir Charles Gardner Hospital. My mum visited him every day bar one during that time. At the end, the pain was so bad that he asked doctors to up the morphine. They did, and continued to do so until he died in the early hours of the morning. This is not a way to die. It is not fast nor peaceful. I was enraged when so many obstacles of personal beliefs were put up to slow down the assisted dying legislation. I respect those who do not believe that this is not for them. However, I do not respect their attempts from stopping others in being able to make that choice. That and the delay of the industrial manslaughter laws were beyond belief. If companies are doing the right thing, then they have nothing to worry about. If they are not, then they should be held accountable. Why would anyone want to delay this type of legislation? I was angry, and have always said there should be more women in Parliament. I could not sit back any longer, so I put myself forward for number 4 on the ticket for East Metropolitan, not expecting to be here, but expecting to help others who thought like I did. I became a member of the LHMU, or Missiles, in 2005. I had completed my diploma in children's services and had begun working as a room leader at a community-based childcare centre. It was whilst I was there, I stood with my union colleagues protesting against the local council handing over a public-owned facility to a profit-making company. Working with children is one of the most rewarding but completely underrated and underpaid professions. Is this because it's seen as women's work, or because it's seen as a profit-making business by investment companies? I continued to work at community centres and eventually becoming a director. It was there that I experienced firsthand what it was like to be bullied by senior management. You see, I asked questions and wasn't always satisfied with the response, so I would ask some more. It ended with me being excluded from meetings, ignored and undermined at every step. So I quit and took them to Fair Work. I was successful. I then worked as a director for a few companies that were profit-making until I just couldn't do it anymore. When was it decided as a community that it's okay to make huge profits from our children's education and care? I began working at United Voice in 2012. Dave Kelly was its secretary, Carolyn Smith, Pat O'Donnell and Amber Jade Sanderson were the assistant secretaries. I was part of the Big Steps campaign, seeking recognition both professionally and financially of early childhood and care. The campaign was doing very well and achieving forward steps until Abbott and the Liberals were elected. I then moved on to the education team. So you see, I also have a Certificate 3 as a teacher's assistant and have worked in classrooms. I witnessed firsthand as an education assistant and then as a union organiser visiting schools how essential the role of the assistants were. Whether it be in kindy or pre-primary, a special needs assistant, or CALLED, which is culturally and linguistically, that one, diverse assistant, or an AIEO, an Aboriginal and Islander education officer. I saw the damage that was done when their numbers were reduced by the Barnett government. Thankfully, our Minister for Education in the McGowan Labour government has restored hundreds of assistants to WA public schools. I then moved within the unions to the MAPS team, what I refer to as the heart of the missiles. Manufacturing and property services was sure an eye-opener for me. It was in this team that I first came across Wilson Security. Yes, the same company that profits immensely from the parking at Charlie's and the Children's Hospital, thanks again to contracts signed by the Barnett government. Wilson's were operating a 2009 workplace agreement. Their employees were working over 100 hours a fortnight with below-award conditions and penalties. Our brave union delegates took them to Fair Work to have the 2009 work choice style agreement cancelled, and the staff moved on to the award. Wilson's was so opposed to this that they flew a barrister in from over east to fight it. They lost. They refer to me as belligerent, and I have no idea how. My last 3.5 years at the union has been as the health team lead organiser. Public health is a hot topic at the moment. I have my own views on this. I believe that the Barnett government created these separate health service providers to enable future public-private partnerships. Public-private partnership, what's that? Think of Midland Public Hospital. A public hospital being run without a full range of services because of the beliefs of St John of God. Or Fiona Stanley, where all support services were signed over to Serco, a multinational corporation making a profit out of our public system. There's also Ramsay Healthcare, who run Joondalup and the Peel Health Campus. These are public hospitals, yet companies are making profits from them or using them as a cover for charitable kudos. The health service providers are run by boards and chief executives. To me, it is as though our health system was broken into many small pieces by the Barnett government. Since the election of the McGowan Labour government in 2017, our Minister for Health has been working to put our health system back together. In August of this year, staff employed at Fiona Stanley Hospital by Serco in catering, cleaning and logistics will return to the public sector. In 2023, the Peel Health Campus Public Hospital will return to the public sector. I look forward to the day we see the other services brought back in. It is also my belief that the current health service provider system needs to be reviewed. Every system can be approved, and health is no exception. For the last 5 years or so, I've been the president of the Bassendean branch. If only all Labour branches could fundraise like Bassendean. Over the last couple of years, over $15,000 has been raised and donated to state and federal campaigns. The members of the Bassendean branch are amazing. They have supported me, mentored me and guided me on my decision to run. Being a politician was not an aspiration I held for myself. It seemed others held those aspirations for me. As Robert Burns wrote, "Oh, wad some power the gift to gie us, to see ourselves as others see us." It is to my branch that I would like to begin my thanks. To Anne Giles, Carol Seidel, Anthea Matthews, Dorothy Griggs and Pam Day. And oh, if you had any doubts about voluntary assisted dying, go and talk to Pam. She'll set you right. Give this group some wine and they could organise the world. I would like to thank my mum, Liz, and my daughter, Jess. I wouldn't be standing here today without your encouragement and support. My husband, David, we found each other again after nearly 30 years apart. You are my love, my rock, and my safe haven. My brother, Graham, arguing with you growing up has helped me be the mouthy, opinionated person I am today. My Australian family, Sarah, John, Matteo, and Maya. The help you are receiving in your hour of need from relative strangers has strengthened my faith in our sense of community. Our John has been receiving excellent care from the staff at both Charlie's and now at Bethesda Palliative Care. You see, Sarah and John were also born overseas, and daily they express their thanks and appreciation at the level of care from these hospitals, and in particular the staff. It is National Palliative Care Week, and a campaign has begun to raise awareness of this incredible service. Palliative care, it is more than you think. To the women in leadership roles who have directly or indirectly led me to be here. To Virginia Aiden, my mentor for many a year. To Carolyn Smith, Amber Jade Sanderson and Dr. Anne Alley. They are strong female leaders. I admire their strength and determination. To all of the other Labour women who have come before me, it is because of the work you have done in paving the way that there are so many women sitting on this side of the House today. We are Labour women. You will hear us roar. To Pat O'Donnell and the United Workers' Union Health Team for your support and patience. To my union family, the United Workers' Union members and staff, once a missile, always union proud. A special thanks to Dom Rose for his patience and support over the years, even though I would go out of my way to wind him up. To Dave Kelly, Matthew Hughes, Luke in the Kalamanda campaign. It's like a different world up there in the hills. Go there. So this is part of my story, my journey here. It covers some of my beliefs and my hopes of creating a better place for all of the community. My belief that investing in education, the public sector, health, mental health in our communities will sow the seeds of hope for the future. The people of Western Australia have entrusted us to be their representatives. We cannot let them down. In this age of the pandemic, let's be bold and make the changes necessary for our state's future. Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations, Honourable Member, and all of the best for your term.